Why is my camera not working? If y'all want to join me on Zoom, the link is zoomwithalvin.live. Zoomwithalvin.live. And I am going to, oh, that's why that one was off. That one's off, like this one. That camera works. Yep. Zoomwithalvin.live. I'm about to build this proforma for 400 units. And we're gonna work it out. Gerald, good to see you, man. Good to see you, my friend. Yep, the link for Zoom is zoomwithalvin.live. I believe that'll get you to my page where you can see what I'm doing. I'm about to share my screen as we do this. So we're gonna share this one. There we go, sharing the screen. This is a brand new model that I have too. I have this dude that's an analyst. And, he lives in Chicago, never met him, been working with me like 3 years. And he helped me over the last couple of years build this model. And we have tweaked it every time we have used it. And now I'm thinking we're just about where I can make this work. So if you guys want to watch what I'm doing, I have just begun. Hey, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever it is you're gonna watch this video. My name is Alvin Hope Johnson, and what I'm doing here is I'm starting from scratch on a brand new development of 400 units. I have all the data I think I need to build my proforma. I've never used this model before. I've never used this model before, but what I'm going to do is we're going to do our very best to build a model for these 400 units and see if it's feasible. And we're gonna try to do this in about 30 minutes. So you guys on Clubhouse, if you want to join me on my Zoom, it's zoomwithalvin.live. I believe that'll take you there. But I'm going to talk through all of the points on this spreadsheet, and we're going to come up with something that works. So again, this started out as a two-phase development. Both phases had 200 units in it. We paid about $7.5 million for the dirt. That was about 18,000 a key, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 7,500,000 divided by 400. Yeah, $18,750 per apartment. So when we say per key, basically what that means is we paid $18,750 per key for every unit. That's how much that land cost. And so to do it in two phases of 200 units each would have meant that we had about $3.5–4 million worth of improvements of just the land alone sitting to the side that we would be paying interest on. That didn't make sense. It also would have meant that because we had to put water and build a detention pond for that phase of the property as well, we would have had another $2 million in improvements sitting there that we had to pay interest on. So that in itself was about $6.5 million. May as well round it up to $7 million worth of improvements that we either had to come with cash to not pay interest on that, and bring our costs down? Or how do we pivot and go from a 200 unit deal to a 400 unit deal now? And so what we had done here was we had the architects, engineers, everybody fully designed the 400 units, fully designed the 200 units. And Antoinette, I'm gonna make you a moderator so you can let anybody else up that wants to come or whatever. We had already designed the 200 units. We had already gotten it all priced out, and my cost to do that was about $38 million. So 38 million over 200 units is pretty expensive per door. And 190,000 a door, about 20,000 a unit over. So to do that, plus we still had the $7.5 million cost of land, which added almost another 20,000, right? So 200,000 a unit. And which would have meant we'd had to come up with about $15 million in cash to do that. So we've already postured this deal up with investors, where we initially only needed $5 million in equity to make this happen. And when last summer, when all the interest rates started going up, everything started changing. Lenders started pulling back on their LTVs and their loan to cost, meaning that we initially had a 90% levered loan, meaning that we had enough leverage at 90% to get this built. And now today, under traditional terms, we would have 65 to 70% leverage. So that difference in 15% of 50 million is the $15 million that I said we would need to bring to closing. And that made this deal pretty much unpalatable. So what we did at that point was we shifted, and I went, okay, there are a lot of people that have margin calls on their investors right now, telling their investors that, hey, if you're going to stay in this deal, you need to pony up more money, because we've had situations that require us to put more capital in it. Not anybody's fault. It's just what happened. You have situations where investors are actually losing their investment in deals because the sponsor can't figure out a way to make it work. And so I was not going to have any capital calls. We surely weren't going to go sideways with the deal, because we have a really good basis in it and this works. So the job of the entrepreneur, the job of the sponsor, is to figure out a way to make it work. So my job was to say, okay, how can we still make this work for everybody involved and have a better outcome than what we thought we were going to have? And so the best way to accomplish that, in my opinion, was to go ahead and build all 400 units now. And I'll tell you my initial analysis on the first 200 units was we'd have about a $62 to $63 million value after they were built. Construction cost $38 million. Total capital stack was close to $50 million. That means interest reserve and all of this stuff for 3 years and putting all this money in the bank to make sure this thing floated. So we had still a substantial upside of from 40 million to 60 million. So that's, that's 30%. That's substantial. And so now we've got an underwriting of 400 units with a sizing, meaning that our lender says that this thing should be worth 130 million with all 400 units. So let's just do simple math. If I had 38 million for phase 1, 38 million for phase 2, that's 76 million with $130 million value. Whoa, man, that's like 80%. That, I mean, literally, you build it for this much and it's worth this much. That's substantial. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, the sizing also accounted for me having a construction budget of 68 million, plus a $7 million contingency. Well, I just mentioned that my construction budget, if I just double the 38, was 76 million. And then they're going to throw a 10% contingency on top of that. So that puts me at 84 million. It puts me $8 million over where I need to be. Okay, so how do you account for that, smart guy? Well, we designed phase one with structurally insulated panels and a whole lot of high performance stuff. And I have no case study of how that'll work. But based on data, it should really perform really well with low electric bills and all kind of great things that would make it worth the cost. But I can't afford to do it on phase two. So how do you do that? Well, 98% of all apartments built are built with, stick built without panels, still very energy efficient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to have two developments in one that will give us case study going forward for the next 30 years. We're going to build phase one out of SIP panels that cost 38 million. We're going to come and build phase two, or the extension of phase one, traditionally built. They're going to look exactly the same. I don't know how they're going to perform because the SIP panels are one and the structural and the regular built building is built just like everybody else builds their apartments. And we can do that one for about 32 million. So you see the difference in savings. So now I am at 69 million and some change, and we can tweak that to get it down to 68 million. I can value engineer and save $1 million somewhere. So that's how we're going to get this thing built within that parameter that my lender gave me. Hey, here's $130 million value. This is how much you need to get this thing closed with no additional cash into the deal. You got to be here with this kind of contingency, and you're going to need a few other things that we can talk about through this process. And so we've stacked it. We've done that. That's how we put it together. And so now we're about to build a proforma to support that. If you guys want to join me on Zoom, it's zoomwithalvin.live. I believe that'll get you there. I can put that in the chat. And oh yes. I think the passcode is multi, all capital letters. Try that. And I think that'll do it. Yep, it is multi, all capital letters. All right. Now y'all can see me. I can see you guys. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna start building this proforma. Good to see you, Lisa. And Janetta, see y'all. Thank y'all for the support. This is gonna be good. Let me share my screen. There we go. And we're gonna share this one. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're gonna start off, and literally the way I built this proforma, it's got 4 tabs on it. Everything goes in on the input tab. Everything in blue is what I use for my inputs. Then it'll spit everything else out based on what we put in the inputs, the monthly proforma, the annual proforma, and then the returns. Real simple, but it all comes from the inputs put on this first page. So that's where we're gonna start here, and then we're gonna see what this thing looks like. So the name of the development is Dreamville on Monticello Drive. It is 300 Monticello Drive. It is Princeton, Texas. And I think it's 75049. I can figure that out later. Year built, we're gonna put 2023 / 2024. The whole period, 7 years, affordable / workforce housing. So I'll tell y'all a little bit about this, and then this thing will have 11 buildings. So it's gonna have 10 apartment buildings and 1 office building. And so this affordable workforce housing thing, I'll stop this real quick and talking to the camera. The way this stuff works, you can see on my spreadsheet, when I get back to it, we talk about AMI, area median income is the driver here. So the area median income, let's assume $100,000 area median income, or Frisco, Texas. Let's use Frisco. I'm right down the street. That's where it's not Disney. Universal Studios is building this new theme park. Best place to live in America. So the area median income there is about $125,000 a year. So if we're using an affordable model, that means that 50% of our units are going to be set aside for residents that make 80% of the area median income. So out of 400 units, 200 of those units will be set aside for people that make, well, let's start off. 50% of those units will be at market rate. Whatever market is, that's what we can get for those units. 30% of those units will be at 80% AMI, and 20% of those units will be at 50% AMI. So what does that mean? So the area median income is AMI. So 100% of those units, or 50% of those units will be at market rate, whatever the market rent is. 30% of those units will be at 80% AMI. So if you've got $125,000 area median income times 80%, that gives you an income of $100,000 a year. That person that makes $100,000 a year qualifies for affordable housing. Imagine that. And then we've got 20% of the units set aside for residents that make 60% AMI. So at 125,000 times 0.60, that resident makes $75,000 a year. So our ideal tenant makes somewhere between $75,000 and $120,000 a year. Not bad for affordable housing. Most of the people that vote for or against these things make less than that when they sit on the city council. They don't make that. But they think because we say affordable housing that we're talking about those people. Those particular people in this market make between $75,000 and $100,000 a year. So when I say we're doing affordable workforce housing, this particular market in Princeton, Texas has an area median income of $80,000. $80% of that is $64,000. That's our ideal tenant anyway. Our ideal tenant makes between $48,000 and $64,000 a year, between 50 and 80% of the area median income. Not a bad tenant. And our average rents here, well, we'll figure that out here in just a minute as we get back to this proforma. But I just kind of wanted to explain what affordable and you'll hear affordable, you'll hear workforce. They're kind of one and the same. Sometimes workforce housing in some markets will go up to 120% of the area median income, but that's still considered affordable. So I just kind of wanted to explain that difference, and I'll get back to the spreadsheet. So for you guys on Clubhouse, if you want to join us, the link is in the chat at zoomwithalvin.live, and the password is multi, all caps. All right, how do I go share my screen? What's up, Virgil? Good to see you, right? So this model, so I put it's affordable workforce housing. It's 11 buildings. Property location is Princeton, Texas. There is this T12, T3 NOI. It's going to be blank. That's for a trailing 12 months NOI, trailing 3 months, and trailing 12 NOI. So if this were an existing property, that would be here. This is a new development. It does not have any income, so that's zero. CoStar market is McKinney, Texas. McKinney/Frisco. That is a sub-market for this. And then the CoStar sub-market is going to be Dallas. So if you were to look on CoStar, this thing is Dallas, Texas submarket because it's right outside of Dallas, but it's in the McKinney-Frisco market because it's literally 8 miles from McKinney, Texas. And then it's 16.9 acres. So that's about the site. So the rent growth, of course, we're not going to have any rent growth in year one because this thing is being constructed. By the end of year two, we'll start trending up, and I'm going to just call it a 3% rent growth for year two. So we're looking at completing this in 2024. 2025 will be the first year that we would start increasing rents. And that's, that's a couple of years from now. As we're going into what some people believe to be one of the worst economic climates in the last 100 years that we've seen. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not an economist, but that's what some of the real smart people are saying. We'll have yet to see that. And then we'll go 4% rent growth the following year and then 5% throughout. This region has seen a 18% increase in rents the last year. We're not expecting it or don't want it to go down at all. But realistically, that there was no way I could put 16% rent growth in my pro forma because that would just be ludicrous. And so that's what I've done here is I've just gone from 0 in year one, year two be a 3%, year three will be a 4%, and then just across the board from there, 5% rent growth year after year. Physical vacancy here will be, of course, 100% vacant in year two. I'm going to call it year three. In year two, 50%. And then by the time we get to year three, we can be trending at 4% vacancy across the board. And that's how we'll leave it. The economic vacancy. Well, this doesn't really matter in year one because we're 100% vacant. But what the economic vacancy is actually, you may have a unit. So we've got 2% of the unit. So we got 400 units. That'll be 8 units that we're predicting that don't pay rent. They're occupied, but they're not paying. That happens every day. And I can tell you, I might even ought to increase that to 3% across the board, just because of what I just said, some of the economic times that we all face, that every development will face at some point in time. So let's just bring that out 3% across the board. And just, of course, we don't like to do that, but that takes away from our bottom line, but that's a harsh reality. At 3%, we could have more than that. And then other income growth, we're going to grow our other income by 2%, and we'll talk about what those things are. Now, this property is kind of weird. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 floor plans here. We've got a studio, a 1-bedroom small, a 1-bedroom large, 2-bedroom, regular 2-1. We've got a 2-1 with an office, which could be a smaller bedroom if you want to do that. But we put in quite a few of those. And then we've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit. And you see these on this sheet are at market rate, okay? And then we've got some, and actually this is not for this property, but I'm gonna just show you how this works. We're gonna go in and put another description here for these units. This was the one that we just built the model off of. But then you've got that same studio unit at 80% AMI. And so what we were doing here on this particular model, that studio was $1,100 a month. The rent for this 80% AMI at 400 square foot, 80% AMI, the rent for this was probably about $960. And how do I know that? That information will pull over here, and there's an AMI calculator that when we put that in, it'll literally go out to the market and it'll pull that data and it will input those rents in here. But typically our rents for an 80% unit are about $100 less than market. Now, I'm gonna talk about this part as well. The 50% AMI units, starting out at $1,100. This particular unit could be, let's just call it $600. Could be. it'll pull, that data will feed into that. Does that mean you actually lose the difference between $600 and $1,100 a month? Not necessarily. Well, Alvin, why would you say that? Well, because that $600, that difference in that $500 could be made up by a Section 8 voucher. Now, hold on. You got a resident that makes $60,000 a year, or $40,000 a year, because they're in the 50% AMI, area median income. The area median income is $80,000. They make 50% of that. They make $40,000 a year. That could be a school teacher. That could be the dude that drives the ambulance that picks you up when you have a heart attack. That could be the fireman. They make $40,000 a year. They could have a Section 8 voucher. Yes, that is absolutely correct. And what would happen is, since the market rent for that unit is $1,100, that person that makes $40,000 with a Section 8 voucher, that voucher would cover the difference of that rent. So they'd have a voucher for $500 a month. That is how Section 8 works. That is how this affordable housing works. And even in a market, again, where people are making $80,000 a year, that $40,000 manager of Dairy Queen, or the dude that is the manager of your favorite restaurant that makes $50,000 a year, could have a Section 8 voucher that, because he makes that much money, that covers that portion of his rent. So the reason I said that was, you're as a landlord, you're not necessarily going to lose that $500, because that resident will find you if you accept vouchers at that property. You can still build in ways to where they have to qualify. You know, they have to make so much of their portion of the rent. And so if they make $20,000 a year, they may not qualify to live there, but if they make $40,000 a year, they do qualify to live there, even though they have a Section 8 voucher that pays you that. Now, when it comes to the underwriting of that particular deal, of that unit, we cannot say that this rent for this unit is going to be equal to that, because we do not have a dedicated income stream for that. What does that mean? Now, you could go to a housing authority that maintains this property or that's in this area and say, hey, you are allowed by law to give out 25% of your vouchers as a project-based Section 8 voucher. That means that that voucher would sit with this unit forever and not with the tenant, because the tenant has a choice voucher, and that choice voucher allows that tenant to take that voucher to any property that accepts Section 8. Because that particular voucher that we're talking about would stay with the property, if that were the case, then you could actually underwrite that same $1,100 rent that you would get from market. That's not the case here, so we have to underwrite it to whatever that 50% rent is. Doesn't mean you won't get the $1,100, but no lender will give you credit for it because you don't have the guaranteed income of the voucher. I know I just said a lot, but that's how this works. It's really simple once you get it. And so for these units here, let's see, we're going to take and input that data from my other spreadsheet over here. So this particular property has not that many floor plans, so that makes this easy. We don't have any studios here. We got one bed, one bath, and they call it unit A1. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at another spreadsheet that I'm converting this from. Market rate, yep. And number of units, we'll figure that out in just a minute. Well, I'll put right here 139, because I think on this particular model I'm looking at, this was for, oh, yeah, here we go. It's all 400 units, okay. And then we've got 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and they call it B1, market rate. And we've got 105 of those. Oh, 105. All right, what's the square footage of that unit? 615. The square footage of this unit is 875. And come on, Alan. 615. And then 875. And then we've got a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and they call it B2 is a unit type, market rate. And we've got 111 of those. And the square footage there is 904 square feet. And I'll come back to the rent. And then we've got a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and they call it B3 market rate, and we've got 45 of those. Okay. And the square footage there is 1084. All right, so yes, sir, go ahead. Are these properties available for tax credits? This property could be, a lot of these tax credits and the affordable things that I'm doing with the tax exempt bonds are almost synonymous, almost exactly the same. Because they use the same rents is why. So a tax credit deal will use the same level of rents that I'm using, the market rate, the 80%, and they may use a 50% or a 60% AMI deal. Some tax credits may use 60% and 40% AMI. So it really just depends on what program you're using it for, which program you're trying to get funding from, as to how you would as to what rent you would use, if that makes sense.
The timeline, some of that they have that, or you as a builder are going to be credit, how is the shape right?
Well, me doing this, we're not applying for tax credits at all. Those credits, the 9% credits are competitive credits, and you've got to have everything stack up right to win those awards. You've got to have land control, all the amount of work that we're doing, all of the work, all the money that we spent to get the engineering and blueprints and all that stuff done. You have to have all of that done to submit for an award for tax credits. And if you don't get the award, you're just out of all that money. So that's a risky game there that we're just not playing. So okay. And so we're just so we're doing the same thing, except we're taking the route that that I know. Oh my Excel was acting up. We're taking this route that just by building it this way, I know that we can get it financed with these tax exempt bonds. I know that this is a very favorable market for this because the incomes are really high. I mean, $80,000 a year, those people are really not broke. And so that gives us a really great model to build this thing around, because so many people think that again, as you know, we're building for affordable housing, they think, oh man, here come those people. And yeah, here come those people. And you probably are one of them.
What you're doing is really important. There's a huge shortage in America. I studied this. I went to the NNHC, the Council of Housing Conference in Las Vegas, and they just put the numbers up there. What we need, I'm not sure which area the building has, but it's necessary everywhere. Those things are here, and be a beautiful home, we want it affordable.
That's correct.
I think, unfortunately, but it's a huge, especially in Maryland, all of it.
No, man, you are so right. I mean, this is really like a bird nest on the ground. When you can figure out that all I have to do is make this affordable workforce housing, and there's so many other programs that open up to this. Meaning there's so many ways that, so we, you know, I'm president of a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to provide safe, decent, sanitary housing to the economically challenged, everybody, and workforce communities of America, the other half of everybody. So it just depends on which market you want to go into to make that happen. And so one of the things that we're going to do as I'm building this pro forma and putting, this is going to be as part of our development program, one of the things that we want to do is train people, like it's 15 or 16 people on the Zoom right now and a few people on this call. I want to train everybody to know how to, you don't have to know how to do this, but if you know how to go out and find tracts of land in these particular zip codes, then you can come back to me and we can partner together. So people laugh at me when I say we're going to do 20,000 units. Why are they laughing? Because not many people have the ability to get that many developments entitled single-handedly. Well, I'm not trying to do it single-handedly. I'm trying to do this with group economics with a lot of people, 500 people, 1,000 people. Everybody on this call could go out today and find 16 acres of land in an area that has area median incomes above 80,000. You got my model right here. Call me. And what we'll do is we'll build it out, just like I'm building this one out. And as we build it out, it won't take but a minute to see if it's feasible. And if it's feasible, then the next piece of that training is how do we go talk to the landowner to get them to participate with us while we go through this underwriting process without us spending any money. Well, that's a pretty easy sell, because we're gonna pay you top dollar if you do it. If you don't, your land's been sitting there forever anyway, so you can keep sitting on it. And people really, and then well, why are you doing it? Are you going to build a whole bunch of houses for them people? No, we're building a whole lot of houses or apartments for people that look like you, whatever you look like, that have the same income that you have, or that have the area median income that fits for this market. And when you start talking about workforce housing, you know, people's notions, just like you, most of the thought has changed from those people to we people. And so I want to empower a lot of people to be able to do this. That will help me hit our 20,000 units in 5 years. And it'll put a lot more people like us on this call, like us on this Zoom. It'll put a lot more of us in position to own some of these developments and take advantage of some of this cash flow that's going to happen forever in these communities. So I appreciate that question. That's really good. So you guys on Zoom, you can just see that all I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up this model right now. I've copied the 1, 2, 3, 4 floor plans. I have put those numbers here in the top. And then what we will do here is I will show you then, let me copy these square footages. And so we can drop those in to where they go. And so we can get a really good picture of that.
Hey, Alvin.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Jen, how you doing?
Are you,
You know what? Man, I got started on this thing and I forgot, but I am. I'm gonna stop this. No,
you just shoot me a text when you're headed to play. I've got plenty to do around here.
okay, good. It'll probably be about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
I've got to sit in the car with me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hey, you can come. And then we can go from here. Whatever's good for you.
I'm just gonna run to there, because I gotta go to ATV anyway, and I'll over here where we're supposed to meet, so just text me when you're headed this way, and I'll meet you.
That sounds good. I'll see you in a few.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
So y'all, that's how me and my friends, me and Jennifer go and sit down and talk about it. But that's what I want to do. I want to help a lot of people be able to do this. And so, and everything here that I'm doing on this spreadsheet right now is literally just setting this thing up. So right now it shows 512 units, but what we're gonna do here is I'll show you. Let's delete that. Let's delete that. Zero these out. And now 407. Where did that come from? Oh, okay. And then we've got an office here, and then we've got 6 units of and this is applicable here. And that other model, what I had was we had 6 units that were going to be for rent. And so we've got 1 office. The office is 39, let's call it 4,000 square feet. I think it's 39 and some change. But what I will do is I will take that 0 away from there. So it doesn't count it in the unit number, but it will count it in the square footage. Here. Let's see here. Maybe I need to put it here for it to add. Yep, that's what I need to do. Okay. Now, because 50% of these units are gonna be set aside for people that make 50% of them are at market. So let me say that. So that means that this top number where we've got the market rate, I've got all 400 of those units up here. That's only gonna be for 50% of those. So that means I need to take one. 70. Make this 69 because we have to err to the good. 105, so that's going to be 53. So we're going to make that 52. 111. So 55, we're going to make that 55. And for 45 units, we're going to make that 22 units. So just short of 50% of all of those units, that's the market rate. And then my rent on those particular units is $13.10, $17.95, $18.35, and then $21.35 is correct. So that's my market rent. For everybody that's new in the room, man, if y'all want to join me, it is zoomwithalvin.live, zoomwithalvin.live, and we have, and the password for that is multi all caps. Oh my God, Lorraine, thank you for saying that. I just saw her message in the chat. So now, now we've got 50% of the units set up that way. And then we're gonna have 30% of the units at 80% AMI. So that 30% is really, doesn't matter which one of those that you make at 80%, but I'm gonna tell you a little secret. And then you got some at 50% AMI, and we're gonna make some assumptions right now because I don't have the data, but the assumptions we're gonna make is that the 80% rents are about $100 a month less than market, because that's typically about right. And in some markets it's $50 less. So you almost lose no money. So what I'm gonna do here with these assumptions right now is I'm gonna assume that these units are gonna be 1835, 1735 are gonna be $100 less. And then let's assume that these 50% rents are going to be, and I'm gonna explain this to you in detail here in just a sec. Let's assume that these are gonna be $300 less. So this is gonna be 1,010. This is gonna be, oops, not that. 615, Alan. Come over here. This is gonna be a $300 less, so that's gonna be 1010. And I'm taking it from the rent, so $300 less. And I'll tell you why that is. So this is $14.95. This is going to be $15.35. And this is going to be $18.35. Now, the reason these rents are less than that is because HUD or the people that make these guidelines that does not pay more than 30% of their income. So if you've got a person for rent, for housing, so we've got a $80,000 area median income, $40,000 is 50% of that. So 50% of that, $50,000 times 0.30 gives them $15,000 a year. Divided by 12, that's $1,250 a month. So this particular resident without a Section 8 voucher that makes 50% of the area median income can pay up to $1,250 for rent. Now, what a lot of people would do is take and make all of these 50% units the one bedroom. Why? Because they won't lose any money. But you're not accounting for families that need 2 bedrooms, that may need 3 bedrooms. Now, do you want to make all of your 3-bedroom units 50% to where you're going to lose from $2,135 to $1,250? You're losing half of your rents there? No. But what you can do is say, well, we've got 100 and let me see, what do we have there? We had 69 plus 69. We had 136 of those. Now we got, so you can make, let's make 30 of those, 50%. And then what we can do is for these 2 ones, I'll tell you what we're not going to do. The two that really has a office in it, we won't make any of those 50% units. Why would we do that? And we probably ought to not make any of them 80% units, because if you're going to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with an office, then you may even have a shared floor plan with 2 roommates, because that's how they're set up. They could probably pay market rent. So instead of discounting these units, 110, I would make more of these, maybe some 80s, and more of these, some 50. So you see what I'm doing? All I'm doing is I'm coming up with the best way to set aside 50% of those units for people that make 50% AMI without killing the property and without looking like a jerk because we put all the 50% units on 1 bedroom. Because that is clearly stating what you're trying to do is not help people, you're trying to maximize your dollars. So I wouldn't make any of those 2 twos 50%, maybe not even 80%, but we would add more. So we could add probably instead of 53, let's add 75. No. Yeah, 2 ones. That's what that is. That's a 2-1. That's a 1-1. This is a 2-2. And this is a 3. Sorry, I forgot to change. So copy that. So now you can understand what I'm doing. Okay. There we go. So now it's the same unit, same square footage, everything's the same. It's just different income brackets that make this work. So 80% AMI, we got 75 of those there. We put 30 of those here. So that's 105 of the units that are already set aside. Okay. And then let's see. Out of these two twos, I said none of those. Some of the 3 twos, we have 45 of those together. So let's go ahead and make these, let's make these 10 of these. That. Let's make 15 of these. Let's make 20. And then we've got 3 at 50%. So we're still giving up some cash, but we're not putting all of it. We ain't giving up that much on that many units. So instead of putting 20 of these down here and losing another 200, 300 bucks a month, we put them up on the 80% line. Okay. And all this is, man, this is really just the science of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And now we've got 382 units. And so we got the 50s, we got the ones set aside, we got some 50s on twos. So I think I need, we had 115 2 ones. Oh shoot, I went overboard. We don't have that many. 75 plus 52. That's 127. And all we had was 115. So this is gonna have to be 53. And then so I got 40 units left. 69. Oh, here they are. Here are the ones right here. And we had 169 plus 69 is 138. I think we had 137 of those. So 137 plus 69, 137 plus 69 minus is 68. Let's see what that does. All right. So 48. So we're at 408. So let's put 40 here. So that's 119. And I'm gonna put these numbers outside here so I'll know how many we had started with. 111. 45. Okay, so we've got 69 and 40. That's 109. We've got 109, and we had 39. So we got 39, 139. That is correct. Okay. And then we had 105 of those, so we got 52 and 53. So that's correct. And then we had 111 of those. So these, we got 110 here. I don't have them near. I'm gonna have to give some of these up. So let's do 55. And let's put them there. And now we got it. We got all of the units accounted for. We got 69 and 40, that's 109 plus 30 is 139. That's all of the 1s. We got 52 and 53, that is 105. That's all of the 2s. We got 55 and 55, that's 110. So I guess I gotta give up a 2 here. As a 50%. Okay, that shows good. That shows good. And then we got 45, so we got 22, 20. That's 42, and 3 is 45. That's all of the 400 units accounted for. And we got nothing here, so we got nothing here. So everything is good. All the square footage is accounted for. We got all the units accounted for. It's 400, but we got one office, so that's where that came from. And then here's our income. $643, $643,325 per month. $7,700,000 annually. Now I'm gonna share something over here. All right, let's stop this share. And I'm gonna share this other screen that I've got. Show this other model that I'm working from. And just kind of show you the difference. So because I set those units aside on the other one for the 80 and the 50% rent, you see this income here is $670 per month. My other one was $643 per month. My overall income here is $8,043,000. My income on my other one was $7,700,000. That's the difference that affordable housing makes from the developer's perspective. We $300,000 per year for the same unit. You see this 8 million right here? Okay. These are the same rents, 1,300, 1,700, 1,800, 2,100, same square footages, everything. And then I come over here, stop this, share screen, share this. And here's the difference, 643, 325, and 7,000,007. That's the difference. Now, that's assuming that my 50% rents are correct. I think they're correct because I think I've done the math here, but I think that, and I took about $300 off of market, so you can see the difference between 1,300 and 1,000, 2,100 and 1,800. That's the difference when you're doing affordable housing. But there's some other advantages that I'll talk about here in part 2 of this. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna stop, and I've been going about 45 minutes. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna stop here, and what we've done is we've built the first half of this proforma. This is the hardest part, figuring out your income growth, yada, 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 based on the market, your unit mix, your unit makeup. I got all of this from my builders. So, designers, I know these numbers are right. I've got my square footages here. These are the market rents for that particular market. And so now we've got this thing set up now to where when I come back in number 2 in phase 2 of this, or part 2 of this, is what we'll do is we'll figure out when will the units come online and when will all 4 of them be, I got month 18 here, have units coming on beginning month number 13. I'll talk through that. And then we will come back and we will go through our other income, vending, laundry, blah, 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 if we'll have any of that. And then we'll come through the payroll piece of this. And then we will come through the expense portion of this. And we'll talk about the OpEx ramp up. That's operational expenses ramp up from 0 to when it goes to 100% of the expenses flow through to the property. We'll talk about the acquisition costs, all of the costs of construction. And once we go through that, we will come out on the back side of this deal and see what our returns look like. So it's almost 1 o'clock. I'm gonna tap out and I'm gonna go and meet with my friend Jennifer. And I'll be back to conclude this about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So if you guys are around Clubhouse walking through these streets, tap in with me. And then I'm gonna post this all on my YouTube, part 1 and part 2 as we wrap this up. So thank y'all for your time this afternoon. And I look forward to chatting with you this later, about 3 o'clock today. I'll stop that share. Thank y'all so much. And then if y'all come back, well, I'll answer any questions you want. We'll go through it. But I have a 2 o'clock call here that I'll be back to take. And then at 3 o'clock, I will be 3 or 3:30-ish. We'll be finishing this up. This was impromptu today. And so we'll finish it up this afternoon. Appreciate you, Billy. Hey, man, I appreciate all the comments.
Thank you, Alvin. I appreciate you, Jennifer, for allowing us to have Alvin for these last few minutes. appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate y'all so much. And 3:30 Central. Yes, ma'am. I'll see y'all soon. Thanks.